Hi, I'm Crystal Hodson and I've constructed this 7-minute presentation on Constructivism as a learning theory. Please enjoy. This presentation will be discussing Constructivism as a learning theory. The presentation is separated into 7 sections consisting of a brief introduction to the key learning theories, what is Constructivism, key features of Constructivism, strengths and weaknesses, my personal values and beliefs, a personal Constructivism experience, and a conclusion. So let's begin the presentation. The 3 key learning theories are behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. Behaviorism as a learning theory focuses on how external factors can affect behavior and its effect on learning. Behaviorism uses conditioning theories such as Skinner's classical conditioning to understand how environmental stimuli affects learning and behavior. Cognitive learning theories focus on internal mental processes and manipulation of information during learning. Cognitivism emphasizes how learners make meaning out of information, manipulates both new and familiar information, and information storage and retrieval processes. Constructivism is a more self-regulated approach to learning. Learners construct knowledge by relating new information to prior experiences. This presentation will take an in-depth look at constructivism and its features, strengths and weaknesses, and applications in the classroom. Constructivism is a learning theory that focuses very heavily on the construction of knowledge. Jean Piaget's theory of constructivism argues that the learner is the producer of the knowledge, taking new information and forming meaning based on their own experiences. The biggest distinction between constructivism and other learning theories is the belief that the learner is an active participant in the construction of knowledge rather than a passive, empty vessel for the teacher to fill with knowledge. Cognitivism and constructivism are sometimes confused as they share some similarities. They are both concerned with mental processes in regards to learning, though constructivism specifically looks at making meaning of information through relating them to mental schemas. Constructivism and constructionism are similar concepts, but there are clear differences between the two. Constructivism is a more broad, overarching theory, while constructionism is a style of teaching under the constructivist theorist model, focusing specifically on learners becoming constructors and producers of personal products. We will now be moving on to looking at some of the key features of constructivism. Traditional models of learning view the learner as an empty vessel for the teacher to fill with knowledge. The teacher is seen as an active presenter of knowledge and the student as a passive recipient of the knowledge. Constructivism differs from traditional models because it shifts the creation of knowledge away from the educator to the student. Constructivism rejects the idea that the student is a passive recipient, seeing them as an active constructor of the knowledge. The student takes new information and relates it to their prior experiences to create knowledge. Each learner constructs their own reality and their own understanding of the world. The process of creating knowledge takes 2 steps: assimilation, the fitting of the new information to pre-existing knowledge, and accommodation, altering the pre-existing knowledge based on new information. From constructivist perspective, we learn through active processes including observing and experimenting, actively searching for information, engaging in dialogue, and producing information. There are a range of ways that constructivism can be applied in the classroom. The activities are designed to encourage personal information gathering and self-reflection. It can be applied in curriculum practices such as applied learning designs and interdisciplinary integration. It can be applied in instructional practices such as experimental learning, problem-based learning, student-directed learning, and mentoring. And it can be also applied in assessment practices such as journal writing activities, portfolios, and observation checklists. In traditional models, the teacher acts as a source of information or the expert. The role of the teacher in a constructivist model is to assist and guide the student to construct knowledge. It is about aiding the student in creating their own understanding rather than just giving the student the information. Constructivism has both strengths and weaknesses in the classroom. Some of its strengths include that it is better for students who prefer a hands-on environment. It helps students to better relate information learned in the classroom to their lives. It caters for students who have prior knowledge of the subject matter and encourages deep-level processing of the information while helping the students develop social skills. Some of its weaknesses are that constructivist teaching training can be extensive and require costly training. It doesn't lend itself well to students that prefer a more rote learning style. It eliminates grade-centered goals, making it difficult to show comparisons between students, and it can make teaching new concepts very difficult. Personally, I believe that the constructivist model provides useful tools and frameworks for planning lessons. The student-centered independent learning and the hands-on activities can help encourage deep-level processing of information, making the information and skills easier to recall. The constructivist model also encourages students to interact and discuss, which can be beneficial to the development of social skills. However, I think it is important to consider all three of the key learning models and their strengths and weaknesses when developing a classroom plan. Personal experience I had with the constructivist model was in my Year 12 literature class. We were each given a different Christina Rossetti poem to analyse and a literary device to focus on. We were tasked with creating a 5-minute presentation to give to the rest of the class. This made us experts in a specific section and encouraged us to communicate with the other members of the class and learn more, and gave us independence in the collection of information. To conclude this presentation, constructivism as a learning model is an untraditional approach. The focus on the student as an active creator of knowledge rather than an empty vessel sets it apart from behaviorism and cognitivism, believing that the learner relates new information to prior experiences to construct knowledge. It applies hands-on activities and reflections to guide students to information.